Hello everybody and welcome to Brony FanFics. Today, Chapter 7 of Crisis Equestria. Last time, I think, the apartment got blown up and the Chronomancer had another fight with... Well, not another fight. It was another fight. With Shadowstep, that guy who does bad things. Anyway. Chapter 7, Invention. Shadowstep stirred. You're awake, Silvertongue's voice. It just says Silvertongue's voice. Shadowstep made to stand at attention, and immediately regretted it as the severe pain shot through his wings. I wouldn't move too much. Were I in your position, my boy, you look like you took quite a fall. Shadowstep winced as the pain settled in. Well, at least now he knew he was alive. Where was he? The room was almost completely dark, except for the bright silver glow that crept out of a large container in the corner. Wherever it was, it lit the room well enough that Shadowstep could see himself, a bloody mess lying on what appeared to be some kind of metal slab. He tried to move, but couldn't. Not because of the pain, no. Those were braces on his hooves. His back against the slab, his legs stretched out and locked in place. Oh god, it's like cupcakes again. His wings were also kept still mostly, in tiny indents in the slab that seemed custom fit for Pegasus wings. He was rather glad they were kept so still, as he could see they were horribly mangled and broken. He'd seen Pegasi with this kind of wing damage before. He'd even inflicted it upon others. They never flew again. My lord, what's... he sputtered. Shadowstep, Silvertongue sighed. I entrusted you with two fairly straightforward tasks. Endeavours, I believed, were tailor-made to your talents and capabilities. You have not lived up to my expectations. Because you have failed at one of these tasks twice now, naturally you understand, I lack confidence that you can handle the second. I am disappointed, to say the least. He presented a folder. The MPPD report on the explosion at Southeast Point. It would appear that it was caused by a gas leak and an electrical fire. If somebody were to have orchestrated that, it would appear as nothing more than a freak accident. Not very subtle in its execution, but certainly subtle enough in preparation. And it most definitely would be effective at eliminating the Chronomancer, and any pony else in the vicinity, for that matter. Particularly 6 ponies I have no desire to see dead quite so soon. Sir, I had nothing. Save your breath, my boy. If I desired excuses, I would have asked for one. I prefer to divulge my information more directly. You understand how hard it is to find good help these days, don't you? Silvertongue's horn glowed, and suddenly Shadowstep writhed in pain as a searing electrical sensation shot through his head. Suddenly he could feel another presence in there with him. And as if his mind were an ocean, he could feel something swimming around in it. Silvertongue's face, if Shadowstep could consider himself any sort of one-to-read expression, bore a look of critical examination. He could feel the most recent events flashing through his mind. Oh god, the yawning's back. Through his mind, as Silvertongue relived them and examined their meaning. Trailing Twilight Sparkle and her friends in hopes that the Chronomancer would make herself known to them. Seeing her alive and well, waiting in their apartment. He had not counted on the generosity and trusting nature of the Pegasus Logwood. Trailing them as they left for the outer districts, with plans to pass through the gate using false passports. Returning to Southeast Point and witnessing the explosion, seeing Twilight Sparkle magic save herself and her companions. The pure luck of the MPPD officer Flattooth divided the group out of fear that the Chronomancers would be assassin would target his family, a valid assumption. Following them to NPPD Central Station, overhearing them making to check on the desk clerk, snapshot. Hurriedly rushing to her apartment and rigging an explosive, lying in wait. Fighting with them, losing. A few moments later, and the pain was gone. Silvertongue's horn ceased its glow, and he bore a look of clear understanding. "You're quite fortunate in a great many ways, Shadowstep. Not only because the explosion was a freak accident in and of itself, but that your first aforementioned failure seems to have been a great boon." At this comment, even Shadowstep looked curious. Had the Chronomancer been taken care of, as I had tasked you with before, she would have never encouraged those elements of harmony to leave their apartment, and they'd likely have been caught in the blast. Ironically, my boy, your initial failure was a beneficial one. Shadowstep breathed a sigh of relief. Of course, he hadn't rigged the explosion at Southeast Point. What purpose would it serve to blow up the elements of harmony after he'd just spent so much time and effort gathering information about them? However, there is still the matter at hand. The Chronomancer still lives and breathes, and as long as she does so, I do not doubt that she will be a thorn in my side. Silvertongue continued. He hovered the glowing box over and lifted the lid. The shining light inside now lit up much more of the room. With a little more magic, Silvertongue lifted something out of the container. It appeared to be some sort of liquid, kept in neat spherical shape by his magic. "Do you know what this is, Shadowstep?" The Pegasus shook his head slowly. "It is a rare and very valuable metal, highly regarded for its functionality as weaponry or armor. You'd be hard-pressed to find much more of it. My own supplies are dwindling, and this is some of what little I still possess. It is exceptionally lightweight and malleable, and cooperates remarkably well with magic, almost in a symbolic manner. If one were to forge a weapon out of it, their magic could manipulate it fluidly, as if it were an extension of their own body and mind. It is also notably resistant to the magic of anything other than the forger, making it extraordinarily potent for shields or armor. The metal is almost sentient, in a way. It is called Obidium, and it obeys orders much better than any pony ever could." Shadowstep detected a light bit of a mocking tone directed at himself. Silvertongue hovered the box over one of Shadowstep's wings. The Pegasus gulped. "What are you doing?" Silvertongue smiled. "Why, I'm going to sheath your wings in the stuff, dear boy. It will repair the damage you have sustained, and my magic will fuse the metal to your nerves and flesh and bone. Then you will have the modicum of control over it. It will be a new weapon for you to wield against your enemies, against my enemies. I could have affixed it to you while you were unconscious, certainly. But I believe that if you experience the sensation of it bonding with you, you may have a greater appreciation for the power it will bestow. Oh, a fair bit of warning. This might hurt a little," he poured. Shadowstep screamed in agony as the molten metal seared the flesh of his wings, coating them with liquid heat that burnt the path all the way to the bone, then quickly cooled. He was certain the scent of his wings, his precious wings, burning away, would forever remain ingrained in his nightmares. More pain shot through his nerves as the magically guided material coiled inward and fastened itself to every joint, every muscle, every fibre, until the metal became a part of him and replaced his flesh and bone entirely. His breath came ragged and dry as he calmed himself from the pain, unsure if he even could stay conscious, though he was certain Silvertongue would ensure that he did not lapse. Then he gulped, rather audibly to his embarrassment, as he saw the box hover over him and move over his other wing. More pain. The metal stripped clean through his flesh. More agony. The metal ingrained itself within him. He suddenly had a strong wish that the fall had killed him. Surely death would be preferable to all this pain. Both wings coated with, essentially made of the metal now, Shadowstep was finally allowed to breathe normally without fear of more of the writhing torture looming ahead. So he breathed deep and slow. He felt the braces on his legs snap open, allowing him to stir once again and begin to stand at attention. Surely Silvertongue would not appreciate him lying there, a pool of pain and misery. Excellent. The process went better than expected. Silvertongue grinned as Shadowstep weakly pushed himself upright. New and improved, wouldn't you agree? Shadowstep winced a little as the pain still lingered on, but flexed his wings to see if they still worked. To his utter surprise, not only did they respond completely normally, but they appeared fluid and natural, as though they had always been part of him. They even seemed to work better now than they did when they were wings of flesh and bone. The joints looked real, even the feathers looked real. That surprised him most of all. He still had feathers. The metal had coated them flawlessly, just the same as the rest of the wing. Magical materials truly were a marvel to behold. He bounded from the slab and flexed his new wings some more. They even felt natural, though the material was cold to the touch. There was a smooth, almost silky texture to it that made it much like feathers and real feathers could be. And Silvertongue had mentioned that magic could control them as if they were part of him, and that Silvertongue's power would grant him that ability. He wondered what that could mean, and was eager to test it. "Thank you, my lord," Shadowstep bowed. "I did not expect to receive such a gracious reward after my most recent transgressions. To be honest, my lord, I expected it. I expected never to wake up again. Your last words to me were hardly encouraging." Silvertongue smirked. "Mindlessly killing my subservience is hardly what I consider a worthwhile use of my time or effort. You are a valuable asset, Shadowstep, even if your more recent endeavours have proved rather flawed. This chronomancer is clearly not to be taken lightly, or she has the most extraordinary luck imaginable. In either case, this new tool I have bestowed upon you should be more than ample to destroy her, in due time. Now then, if you're quite done preening around," he said firmly, "it's time we came to the next order of business." Shadowstep saluted. "Of course, my lord. I'll finish off the chronomancer this time, I swear it." He trotted over to the door, which not only didn't open at his push, but not in his very presence. He was used to doors in Pandora responding to the proximity of ponies and opening automatically. "Where do you think you're going, Shadowstep?" Silvertongue asked. Shadowstep turned, somewhat concerned that there was a hint of glee in Silvertongue's voice. To kill the chronomancer, sir?" Silvertongue laughed. It was the first time Shadowstep had ever heard the sound like that escape his employer's lips. "You, my dear boy, you've already failed me twice in that regard. Heavens, what makes you think I'm going to give you another chance? So soon, yet after another failure." Shadowstep raised an eyebrow and flexed his wings a bit. "But you just said, but your gift," he sputtered. That gift of yours is a rather double-edged sword. You'll find soon enough. But I digress. I did not grant you this boon so that you may destroy the meddlesome little chronomancer. Not yet. That will come in due time. I am certain. But for now, I have more pressing matters to attend to, without worrying about whether or not you'll succeed or fail me yet again. No, your gift, my boy, is meant to give you some sort of fighting chance in regards to your punishment." Silvertongue grinned and let his horn shine brightly as he coaxed out a a terrific amount of magic. Shadowstep panicked and made to move, but found himself engulfed in bright light. His eyes widened. Punish? Mint? What? There was a time wipe and then mint. The first what was the point of even that time wipe? I don't understand. The first sensation Shadowstep experienced upon being teleported... Oh, it's teleportation. Okay. The first sensation Shadowstep experienced upon being teleported was a smell. Not so much a smell, really, as much as a stench. And what a stench it was! Shadowstep was a hardened killer who had seen many dead bodies, disposed of corpses, seen ponies soil themselves in fear and upon death, and crawled through some of the most unsavoury areas imaginable to reach some of his targets. He thought his nose was mostly immune to the sensations of foul odours, and that he could handle anything of the sort. Here, though, he was instantly nauseated due to the sudden exposure of it. It didn't take more than a second to make him retch. For a good solid moment, the only thing in the entire world that he could see, hear, taste, smell, feel, or even think was his stench. As his stomach settled, his mind eased, and his nostrils became accustomed to the odour. He could finally see where it was. It was unpleasant. The earth beneath his feet was stained a deep, dark red and oozed forth a blackish red goo that stuck to his hooves. It appeared to be blood. He'd seen enough of the stuff to tell, but somehow it was different, irregular. It was thick and clung to him like glue, and almost seemed like it was reaching out to consume him as he lifted a hoof away. The trees around him were dead, beyond dead, but also somehow alive. They did not bloom like living trees, full of green foliage and fluttered in breeze. Their branches were devoid of leaves, and appeared dead, and yet the trunks were thick and seemed full of life, despite their blackened colour and their cracked surfaces. And then there were the bodies. Shadowstep had killed many ponies in his lifetime, and for a fleeting second he looked about him and wondered if every single corpse he'd ever been responsible for was here. And then some. They weren't buried, not under the ground at least. They were piled, like one would do for garbage or leaves, blackened and burned, rotting away as if they'd been there far longer than he thought were possible, without them decomposing into dust. His thoughts suddenly burned away at him, and he winced in severe pain as Silvertongue's voice rang in his head, as if the unicorn were not standing beside him, or was even actually in his head, but spoke with such a burning intensity that Shadowstep was certain that it was his own mouth speaking the words. The Bloodmire. A fitting name, is it not? I could tell you stories of this place, tales of murder and death that would awe even a murderous psychopath like yourself, my boy. But I fear there is no time for dilly-dallying. You may want to watch your back. Shadowstep turned and leapt back in surprise as a spark of magic ripped past him and exploded several feet behind his head. The explosion wasn't particularly strong. He'd seen average unicorns with more force than that. But that wasn't the issue. Shadowstep's eyes widened as he traced the bolt back to the unicorn that had fired it, and for a moment he wondered if he was dreaming. If this was either some horrible nightmare, or if perhaps his eyes were playing tricks on him, or had even somehow been transported inside a horror story. The unicorn was, well, it was difficult to describe exactly what. Was it alive? It moved like a living, breathing unicorn. It cast spells like one. It may have well been one, for all things as far as those unicorns were concerned, and yet the unicorn was clearly not alive. His charred and rancid skin was almost melting away in places, exposing great deals of corroded bone and decayed innards. One of his legs was ripped apart, and in the places where there should have, in the places where there should have been bone and muscle, connecting the two halves. There was instead a faint glow of reddish-black magical energies that held them in place, though clearly not from the unicorn's own horn. Its horn, in the meantime, was shattered and broken, but still able to cast magic as though that were perfectly natural. This same force filled other important voids in the unicorn's horribly mangled and rotten body, most notably its eyes. No, it clearly wasn't alive, but it was more than just dead. Shadowstep hesitated for a moment, unsure if what he was seeing was real, and in that hesitation, he almost did not react in time to the feeling of movement behind him. These things, whatever they were, had clearly been ponies once, but no longer. He turned swiftly to see another of them bearing down upon him like a predator, starved out for blood. This one had once been a Pegasus, and filling the areas where its wings were torn and decomposed, the same dark power that kept the unicorn from toppling over allowed the Pegasus to take flight. Shadowstep narrowly avoided getting a face full of the thing's mangled hoof, and panicked for the brief instant when he realized his dodge had been sloppy and the creature was going to crush his wing instead. A resounding clang of metal against flesh and bone, an almost sickening crunch, made him rethink that worry. He had felt the creature strike his wing, but hadn't felt any pain at all. And while he was certain that the putrid thing couldn't feel pain itself, it certainly could be damaged. Its face had been horribly mangled by the metal feathers he now had, and it was here that he realised they weren't just feathers, they were blades. With a grin, he stretched his wing and brought it down as one would the blade of an axe, cleaving the creature's head clean off. The sensation of his own body being a weapon, capable of tearing through flesh and bone, was exhilarating. Rotten flesh and bone, to be sure, but the difference between rotten and healthy was modest at best in this case. The unicorn fired another bolt of magic at him, and Shadowstep's grin widened as he remembered that Silvertongue had mentioned the metal was also highly magic resistant to any kind of magic other than that of its forger. Sweeping his wing about in a wide arc, he reflected the bolt back at the creature, and it struck with enough force to blow the thing's body apart. Like the once Pegasus, the monstrosity's eerie glowing eyes dimmed and died once it was properly destroyed. Fascinating material, is it not? Silvertongue's voice burned through Shadowstep's mind. Shadowstep spoke aloud in response. If this is my punishment, my lord, to slaughter these abominations, then I am thankful you granted me such a gift. He grinned. His grin turned into a smug smirk. Otherwise I might have to break a sweat. I shall return soon enough to slaughter the chronomancer. Silvertongue's voice laughed, as Shadowstep's elated smugness dwindled away in an instant, like a fire facing down on monsoon. My dear boy, you think you'll only have to deal with them in such short bunches? I was merely giving you a brief chance to discern the extent of your new gift. But if you're confident that if you're that confident in yourself, then perhaps it is time I removed my protective barrier. Shadowstep suddenly felt an emptiness fill him, and the entire surrounding area seemed to become more visceral. In that instant, he realised that he hadn't moved much since he got here, and that both the creatures that had attacked him had originated from a relatively close distance away. Silvertongue's magic had kept more of the creatures at bay. Shadowstep watched in horror as the piles upon piles of bodies around him suddenly began to glow that same black and red, and hordes of the once prey began to stir, more and more of them. Not just several dozen, but several hundred. They were not slow to wake, nor were they slow to act. Shadowstep found himself engaged on all sides as the creatures that took on the forms of unicorns, pegasi, and earth ponies alike, assaulted him with reckless abandon. He swung his wings round like great scythes, slicing apart most of the ponies that got nearby. But he found it was difficult to do so against a horde that seemed to grow larger every moment. He panicked. There were only two options, fight or flight, and right now the former seemed to be a fool's errand. Flapping his wings roughly, he forced himself hard into the air. Unicorns continued to fire bolts of red magic at him, and now the once pegasi were beginning to pursue. They were not quite as agile as living pegasi, even those who were perhaps below average flyers. He breathed a sigh of relief as he easily outran them, and twisted himself round to make a course for New Pandemonium City. Fighting the creatures was hard. Running around them was easy. Tisk, 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 Silvertongue's voice rang. My, Shadowstep, are you trying to escape your punishment? Were it that easy to do, I would think myself a right fool to believe you wouldn't attempt it. No, we won't be having any of that. Shadowstep felt a hard, sharp pain through his wings, and suddenly they felt heavy. Very heavy. His wings were suddenly great metal wings that could grant him flight about as well as they would let him swim. He careened into the ground below with a sickening crash. Not just because he was injured, but because he now found himself covered in the bloody goo that was now certain was the remains of some of these abominable creatures. It made him suddenly nauseated again at the thought of it. He looked up from the crash site to find that he was already being set upon by more freshly woken monsters. When he tried to move, he found that the weight of his wings made that task excruciatingly difficult. One of the earth ponies lunged at him, and he barely had the strength to swing his wings around to defend himself, let alone try to break the creature. The rancid pony merely rebounded off his wing as he used it more as a shield than a blade. But it was enough effort to make him lose focus on another, and at once Pegasus sprung upon him, and with what had assuredly once been a mouth, but was now more or less just a vice, sunk great sharp teeth in his neck. Shadowstep cried out and shook the thing off, slashing at it with his other wing, but only managing to rip apart its legs. A unicorn blasted a bolt of magic at him and knocked him off his balance and onto his back. An incredible burning sensation shot through his side where the blast had struck. The earth pony pounced upon him and slammed his forelegs down into his chest. Shadowstep wheezed and coughed up blood as the creature's sharpened hooves ripped and tore his flesh, threatening to pierce straight through and shred apart his lungs and heart. He flexed his wings around him and crushed them against the thing's head, splattering himself with blood and rancid gore as it slumped forward on top of him. He fought the urge to vomit. A tearing pain ripped through him as he felt another one, likely the one's Pegasus, bite into one of his legs. He swung his wing down to slice through it and struggled to his feet. As he staggered away, a familiar burning sensation tore through his back as the unicorn's magic exploded upon him again. The unicorn, however, had not fired its bolt from much distance. He felt its weight forced upon him soon after, burying his teeth into the freshly cooked flesh on his neck. The pain was enough to make him slowly begin to lose consciousness. He tried to shake the unicorn off, but could not find the strength. He looked out into the field, and all he could see were hundreds more eyes coming his way. And that was the last thing that flashed before his eyes. The elevator hummed quietly as it slowly made its way down to the side of Pandora. Its only passenger looking out of the glass exterior and into the slowly retreating city skyline. Eventually, Silvertongue's view of the city was obscured as the inner district skyscraper and office complexes rose up, The ambient music was soothing, a calming rendition of one of Silvertongue's favourite songs. It was a slow, delicate melody, from an opera he remembered seeing as a little foal so very long ago. The villain of the piece sang this song as he set about his final scheme to vanquish his heroic foe, and Silvertongue found it most appropriate for his current situation. There had been a few hiccups here and there this evening, but for the most part things were finally underway. The elevator doors opened, and Silvertongue strode out into the large beckoning hallway coated in blacks and reds. Dark enough to drown out the light of his pristine coat-like ink upon paper. At the end of the hall was a large metal door, foreboding and intimidating in all its blacks and golds. Silvertongue walked through it with eager confidence and pose, lifting the heavy object with his magic as though it were made of the flimsiest of wood, not solid iron. The room was moderately darkened. It was lit well enough that one could see its contents without much strain. Silvertongue looked around in quiet contemplation at the abundance of machines and other materials strewn about, but clearly all-purposed for some task. Huge monitors, large power grids, cables of all shapes and sizes and lengths, stretching and connecting them all together, but none of that was much concern to him. No. Silvertongue's eyes were focused in the centre of the room, where a large platform had been raised. He approached it with curiosity and anxious anticipation, ecstatic to see the fruit of his labours firsthand, to see what his mad science and his forbidden magics had wrought. On the platform were 6 large containers, made of an enchanted glass that would resist and contain some of the most powerful magics known to pony kind, each one connected to a series of cables and levers and machines to monitor the contents of these containers. And that was what gave Silvertongue such eager elation. He turned and called out into the room, "Doctor, is everything prepared?" A crash from the side of the room drew Silvertongue's attention, as a pony swore and cursed as he tripped over some of the cables. One of the cables. The pony, an off-white unicorn stallion wearing a dulled beige lab coat, rounded the nearby corner and greeted Silvertongue with a brisk salute and a smile. "Herr Silvertongue, I apologize. I did not hear you come in." Don't tell me this is the German doctor." Anyway, ja, everything is ready. I only need to make a few final adjustments, and we may begin. You have outdone yourself, Doctor. 6 of them, and in such short time, too. I am glad to see I will not be experiencing any more delays. This shall be your greatest work. Ja, thank you. That was it, Blutsauger. Damn Blutsauger. Smiled with pride. It was easy to get the genetic material I required. I was able to convince them to come in for a physical and blood work. Pure samples are much better than possibly tainted ones from the immunization needles. The more I have to work this, the better work I can do, yeah? Silvertongue smirked and turned his attention back to the containment pods. Sitting in each tube was a pony. Here in the closest one to him was a lavender mare, a unicorn. She had a deep purple mane and tail that fell straight and looked naturally neatly combed, with a bright pink streak shooting along the middle. Silvertongue grinned as he saw the inspired perfection that the process had created. Twilight Sparkle, the representative of the element of magic, was out there somewhere in New Pandemonium City, but she was also in here, in this very room, and the only difference between them was Between the two was that one had a soul, the other did not. One was a living, breathing creature, while the other was just a lifeless shell. Silvertongue knew that would soon no longer be the case. That soon this little mare in this containment pod would no longer be Twilight Sparkle. And yet would be all the same. All of the original thoughts and memories and passions and dreams and every last possible fibre of her being would be twisted and warped to his advantage. He gave a small laugh at the thought of his labours being given physical form at long last. To know that soon enough they could begin the task he had set before them. In each of the other chambers, another perfectly copied clone of the rest of the elements of harmony sat, lifeless, soulless, and waited the next stage of his plan. Excellent. Excellent, he breathed. Now then, Doctor. Go ahead and finish your final preparations. I need to focus myself for the next stage. I should only need a few moments. Yeah, Herr Silvertongue. Bloodsorger nodded, and hastily shuffled away. So I'm assuming these are like the, the evil versions of them that you can see in the fan art. Although, they say they're actual clones. I don't know, maybe they'll be, like, altered at some point. Silvertongue breathed deep and let his magic waft about him, calling out to Nihila once again. She was quick to respond, as always. My warden, you work quickly, her voice cooed. I am pleased with your progress. I am as anxious as you are, my lady, Silvertongue thought inwardly. The stage has been set. The actors are all in place, with your blessing. I may pull back the curtain and let our masterpiece perform for itself. Nihila hesitated for a mere second. My warden, to you I will be granting phenomenal magical powers, in which you will be gifting these creatures with life. But I warn you, with my essence filling their bodies and souls, my power fueling theirs, and filling them with my will, it will weaken me greatly. I'll be unable to reach out again from the dreaming for quite some time, unable to assist you, should you require my aid. I have utmost confidence in my plan, milady. Silvertongue chuckled with confidence. These 6 mares that we are birthing this very hour, they are the perfect pawns to carry out this task. I have no doubt that the magical powers you are to bequeath upon them will be more than enough insurance that, even should our initial plan fail, they may still be of some use to us in the future. I am entrusting you with a great risk, my warden. I know you will not disappoint me. You have my blessings. Continue your work, and see to it personally, if need be, that my will be done. As you wish, milady. Silvertongue felt the oddest sensation. Nihila's consciousness was leaving his soul and mind like before. But he did not feel empty. No, her essence still remained with him. He instead felt empowered, filled with so much dark magic and energy that for a fleeting second he felt it would tear him apart. Unable to be contained by his mortal form, his body became used to being filled with such power in due time, and he felt the ease at which the new magic could function. Such power, such intensity. If only this kind of strength could be used against Harmonia directly. Silvertongue was confident he could destroy her himself and be done with the whole plot, if only that were the case. But what was where these 6 little mares came in? They could help accomplish that goal. Herr Silvertongue, called Bloodsorger, shaking him from his awed stupor. All the preparations are complete. We are ready to begin. Wonderful, breathed Silvertongue. He strode away from... the thought just came into my mind that Silvertongue has just gone Super Saiyan. He strode away from his 6 prized creations and over to where Bloodsorger awaited him. The doctor helped Silvertongue into a mechanical brace that attached it to its horn, connected by cables and wires of many different sizes and colours and materials that stretched up to the ceiling, then came down again and attached themselves to the large machine that held the 6 containment pods. Bloodsorger quickly checked a few readings to make sure everything was connected properly. Satisfied, he trotted over to his private station in the corner of the room and made the final adjustments. Right. Right. Now then, when you give the word, Herr Silvertongue, I will begin the energy transfer. This is my first doing this precise process, but it should not be much different than any of the other times I have done this sort of thing, yeah? Surely it's not bringing the dead back to life, but it's a similar concept. I'm ready to begin whenever you are, Doctor, Silvertongue nodded. Bloodsorger nodded and flicked a bunch of tiny switches with his magic, turned some dials, adjusted a few levers, twisted a knob or two, pushed some buttons, then turned to the massive red power switch behind him. With a great exertion of effort, he lifted it, and with a loud clang it snapped into its on position. And all the machines in the room were sprung to life at once. Silvertongue felt a rush of electricity snap through his horn, and grinned wide as the feeling of power in his body reacted to the amplification device that he had designed. Whenever you are ready, Herr Silvertongue, you may begin the magics. Oh... I see what you did there. Silvertongue let his new powers trickle slowly out of him, and though he did so much with trepidation and remorse, he knew he would soon be rewarded with the effort. Powerful dark magics flowed from his horn and into the amplification device, and he saw the energy coursing through the cables above into the containment machine in the room's centre. The machine spun slightly and then lifted one of the containment pods from the platform to the centre of the machine. Silvertongue noticed that the pony inside was orange. Applejack, was it? The doctor always did have a habit of doing things alphabetically. He watched with eager anticipation as the containment pod gave a resounding noise when it clicked together with the amplification device. The pod began to glow a dark purple, shrouding the pony inside from a view for a brief moment. Silvertongue loosed forth a full 1/6 of Nihila's granted blessing out of him, and watched as the device drained it into the pony there. A strong darkness filled the room, but for a moment, shrouding everything in black. When it flickered away, the machine stopped spinning and whirring, and Silvertongue felt his magic relax completely of his own accord. He looked to the centre of the room. The containment pod was still shrouded in dark mist, and remained as such as the machine pulled it away from the centre of the room and lifted the pod towards the nearby wall, where it would be sent to an adjacent room for safekeeping and further monitoring. Silvertongue motioned for Bloodsorger to delay the process, long enough for him to at least see his first creation, before he began to work on the others. Black and purple mist slowly dissipated, as Silvertongue gazed into the pod with delight and pride. His first creation was inside, alive and breathing, kept in a calm stasis to allow her body to grow accustomed to the dark magics that flowed through her veins. The first of these new elements of discord. Silvertongue rather liked that name. Applejack's clone had been warped and twisted by the incredible magics that Nihila's power held, and she no longer truly looked like anything like her original form. Her dulled orange coat had turned a vibrant blue, her blonde mane and tail a shiny apple red. Her figure was slightly leaner and more refined, not at all like a working pony that did exuberant amount of physical labour. He eagerly awaited the chance to get to know this new mare, to see how her personality and essence were different from the Harmony counterpart. If her mind had been twisted as much as her body. Well, the implications were astounding to him. Such power, to completely change one's body and soul. Only Nihila's magic was capable of such a dark task. Silvertongue motioned to Bloodsaga to send the pod to the rest of the way, and he himself focused his magic again. There were still 5 more ponies to create. The machine spun again, and this time lifted the lifeless clone of Fluttershy. As before, Silvertongue fueled the device with Nihila's magic, and winced in pain slightly, as even more power was sucked out of him. He nearly worried that perhaps it was draining some of his own magic as well, but shook away that concern. Even if it was only to serve to fuel them with more power, and tied their essence directly to him in some way that they would be more readily obedient. The room darkened and brightened again, and Fluttershy's counterpart was lifted away, much the same as Applejack's had. Silvertongue did not signal to halt the process. He'd witnessed its effects upon Applejack's clone already, and knew he would soon enough get to see the others without squandering his time. He repeated the process with Pinkie Pie's counterpart next, then Rainbow Dash's, then Rarity's. At last, the one he was most eagerly anticipating, Twilight Sparkle's clone. Nihila's magic began to flow through him into the amplifier as before, and everything started off rather smoothly. But then, something went wrong. Terribly, terribly wrong. Several of the machines in the room began to vibrate and hum uncontrollably. Silvertongue noticed a few monitors here and there click and begin to crack. Bloodsaga leapt away from his station as one of the readout meters burst apart, showering him in plastic and glass. Silvertongue himself could feel it right now. A phenomenal amount of magical power flowing outward from the slowly warping clone of Twilight Sparkle, untainted by its host's body, and pulsing with power and nothing to keep it under control. He expected her to have a lot of power as the element of magic, but this seemed a little too much, and the energy did not feel intimately recognizable to him, though he did not feel it was somewhat familiar. Though he did feel it was somewhat familiar. "Doctor!" he called out. What's happening in here?" Bloodsaga gulped as he looked over a few readings. Her magical levels are off the charts, Herr Silvertongue. I did not think any pony could contain this much magic, and the machines cannot pinpoint the source. Most unicorns use similar types of magic, yeah? This one, the machines do not recognize it. I'm terrible at this German accent. As more of Nihila's power flowed into the machine, Twilight's clone began to give off more and more energy. Silvertongue could feel it tingling against his skin and making his mane and tail waft about as though there were a breeze in the room. Bloodsaga could feel this magic too, and it was making him jittery. The safety parameters are holding for now, but I do not know for how much longer. The mana-resistant glass should be able to hold, so long as her power does not increase too much more. Bloodsaga regretted speaking too soon, as both he and Silvertongue heard a rather loud crack come from the centre of the room. Bloodsaga quickly trotted in and eyed the glass, then stepped back with a great deal of worry. Impossible! Impossible! Her Silvertongue! Her magic! It is cracking the glass! Silvertongue's eyes widened for only a moment in utter surprise at what the implications were. The amount of magical power required to break through the glass was extraordinarily high, and something that particularly powerful unicorns could break. He himself admitted he had trouble cracking through it, and as Nihila's warden, he was the most magically empowered unicorn in all of Equestria. With Twilight Sparkle, now her clone, as well, that powerful? As powerful? No, more powerful than he was? Astounding. Another crack, and another rang out. The crack snaked along the glass like it was ice, and they could hear what sounded like pounding coming from inside. Bloodsaga jumped back a great distance as finally the glass snapped open. Like a fierce storm, the intense magic within the little pod was now set loose into the chamber. Without its host to control it, the most powerful magics acted on their own will, a phenomenon that intrigued Silvertongue. Magic wasn't supposed to work like that. At least no magic he had ever seen used before. A void of darkness flared about, lashing out random at machines. And every second that Silvertongue pumped more of Nihila's magic into the amplifier, the more power its wild and untamed magic was given to work with. It launched bolts of powerful energy at random targets that ripped metal and glass apart like they were nothing. It lashed out with fluidic, tentacle-like strands that grasped at things and crushed them like toys, or smashed them like a hammer striking nails. Bloodsorger clambered over the Silvertongue in a panic. Herr Silvertongue, Sie must stop the process. Her powers will tear the room apart. Silvertongue glared at the doctor. Stop? When we are so close? We are only a few short moments away from bestowing life upon the most powerful mortal creature in this world, and you want to stop? Get back to your station, you miserable little foal, and keep her liveliness stable. I'm not about to end this just because you are a pathetic coward. Bloodsorger gulped and nervously nodded as he backed away. I will just go back to my station, Herr Silvertongue. Bloodsorger returned to his instruments and began to tweak them in an attempt to calm the empowered mare's magic, but nothing seemed to be working at all. Her powers were far too great to tame with mere machinery, mere science. More and more power continued to flood the room. Bloodsorger huddled under his workstation, hoping he'd live to see the next morning. Silvertongue was otherwise undeterred. Even as the magic began to lash out towards the machines closer to him, one bolt of magic flashed just past his ear, enough that he could feel the stinging burn. Another exploded nearby and tore apart a monitor station in a shower of metal and wires and electricity that, had he been a few feet closer, would have most likely killed him. This didn't faze him in the slightest. It wasn't until one bolt of magic shot straight at him that he, just for a moment, lost his concentration. He did not attempt to avoid it, did not attempt to block it, and knew that trying to do either was impossible given his station. All his magic was being used to maintain the power transfer, and as long as he was latched into the amplifier, he couldn't move. When the black bolt of powerful magic struck him, he recoiled in agony. All he could see was black and red, darkness and blood flooding his vision. Feel the intense pain of searing magic and broken glass embedded in his left eye, where his monocle had once been, where his eye had once been. A lesser pony might have blacked out, whimpered and cried, gone into shock, or even began to heave, but Silvertongue was too far into his focus. He would not be deterred, not if it cost him his life and limb. Nihila had entrusted him with this task, and he would not fail her, could not fail her. Only a little more. He fought through the searing pain. Only a little more. The salty taste of blood would not shake him. Only a little more. He couldn't see straight, but that would not deter him. Only a little more. Only a little. There. It was done. There was a sudden emptiness as the last of Nihila's magic was fully transferred into her, and the intense magics of Twilight Sparkle's clone calmed, and retreated back to their host. His subconscious was alive now, and could hold the magic in check at the basic level needed to prevent it from ripping everything apart. Silvertongue snapped the amplifier off its horn roughly and stumbled out of the bracing device. Dr. Bloodsorger eagerly jumped out from cover, glad to be out of danger, and ran to him and helped him steady. Herr Silvertongue, you've done it! The process was a complete success. She is, her Silvertongue? Your eye. A minor inconvenience, Silvertongue spat. Her pod is shattered. That means she will not be in stasis, correct? Bloodsucker quickly nodded. 9. She will not be in stasis without the containment pod. Her life signs are stable though. She will likely wake up on her own in a few moments. Bring me to her. Shouldn't we get you some medical... I said, bring me to her, doctor. Silvertongue hissed. You can attend to my injuries later. I wish her to see me when she awakes. Yeah. Of course, Herr Silvertongue. The two hobbled over to the central platform as sparks of electricity jumped out from nearby machines. The entire room had become like a battlefield, torn apart by such powerful, untamed magics. Silvertongue was becoming wet at the lips in anticipation. If this kind of power could do that much damage when wild and unfocused, how much could it do when given a target, when concentrated on a goal? Yes, she would do quite nicely. He insisted upon limping the rest of the way up to the platform without the doctor's help, and came to the shattered pod where he beheld his sixth and final creation. Her coat was purple, a deep, dark purple. Not at all like the bright and colourful lavender of her original form. Her mane was coloured bright pinks and purples, and seemed to have a natural bounce and curl to it. Her body tone did not seem to be altered in any way physically, which would make sense seeing as she too would be the element of magic. This mare, she was perfect. She was just as powerful as her Harmony counterpart, but without those annoying things like self-control, compassion, or friendship that prevented her from using that power for personal gain and for destruction. The mare's eyes slowly fluttered open. Rise and shine, little one. For some reason we have author's notes. Well, with the second episode of Season 2 aired, I went back and made changes to a few areas here and there, so that the fixed canon fits in properly with the show's canon. You're welcome to go back and read the changes yourself, but there's a synopsis of what changes were made. Fic-wide changes. All references to the Mare 6 as the Elements of Harmony have been modified to them being the wielders of the Elements of Harmony. Discordia's name has been changed to Nihila, so that it is different enough from Discord that people aren't confused by mentions of either of them. Harmonia's name remains unchanged. The pair's titles have been switched up a tad. Harmonia is the goddess of balance. Nihila is the goddess of disparity. The latter is due to, again, lowering confusion between her and Discord. The former is to fit with that theme. The reason that the main six need to hurry home is now that Discord's seal is breaking again with the main six in the other world. Naturally, with them there, if he breaks loose, there won't be any pony around to use the Elements of Harmony to fight him, presumably. In regards to the above changes, the magic system that is brought up to be flawed is now a little less glaring. It is still, intentionally, flawed, and this is still picked up on by Twilight, but now its importance is played down a little. Chapter-specific changes. Chapter 1. Rainbow Dash's first line has been changed from Dragonshy reference to a direct reference to Discord. Chapter 2. Reference in the Belt of Tranquility section of Law and Chaos magics have been changed to Light and Darkness magics. This does play part in the fic. You'll notice that TikTok and Doctor Who's still refer to them as Law and Chaos, even though the narration does not. Chapter 4. Edited the fight scene between TikTok and Shadowstep a little, so that it is more in tone with the way the original fight scenes are written. Chapter 6. Added a Chocolate Rain reference. Had to, you understand. Yes, I do. Additional notes. Hey readers, check out some fan art, and then there's some links. Blah blah blah. Alright, well that's chapter 7. I think that will win a bit more smoothly. We got it done fairly quickly. I think it was, yeah. But we didn't see much of the main 6, which, you know. But I suppose you need a chapter devoted to sort of, you know, each side to really enhance the story more, I suppose. But yeah, that was chapter 7. I hope you enjoyed. I quite enjoyed that one. We now get to see the sort of elements of Discord, their counterparts. It's quite interesting, and I'm looking forward to reading chapter 8. So hopefully I'll see you then. And until next time, keep on spreading the magic of friendship, and I'll see you then.